Have you ever tried to have a deep conversation with your spouse and it feels like you're the only one in it? It's like one of you is reaching and the other one's just slowly shutting down. Wives, maybe you feel like you just can't get him to open up. Or husbands, maybe you feel like no matter what you say, it's not enough. So it's easier just to say nothing at all. But what if the problem isn't that your husband doesn't care, wives? What if something deeper is going on? And what if you don't understand it, but it'll keep pushing you farther apart? Well, coming up in this video, we're going to answer these three questions, and these could completely change the way you see your spouse and your marriage. So first, why your husband may seem emotionally unavailable and whether that can actually change. And then second, the subtle ways you might be unintentionally contributing to the distance and why the harder you try, the worse it can sometimes feel. And then third, how to help your husband begin opening up in a way that doesn't feel forced and doesn't lead to another fight. It actually builds real connection. You know, this week I was working on something around the house and I went to grab a tool that I needed and it just wasn't there. And I remember standing there thinking, I know it needs to be fixed. I just don't have what it needs to fix it. And here's what I want you to see. A lot of husbands feel the exact same way when it comes to emotional connection. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't want a strong marriage. It's not even that they don't even see that there's a problem. It's that when that moment comes and when their wife's asking for something deeper, they reach into their toolbox and there's just nothing there. And no language for what they're feeling, and no model for how to express it, and no training to how to stay present in a hard conversation. So what do? The only thing they really know how to do is sometimes we just shut down, or they go quiet, or they try to fix the problem instead of connecting emotionally with you. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they don't have the tools. And I see this all the time. Here at the Marriage Adventure, we host 3-day intensives for couples who are dealing with this exact issue. So a few years ago, I had a young couple sitting right here across from me, and the wife was incredibly frustrated because her new husband wasn't connecting with her emotionally. But after a few minutes of working with him, I realized something. She was a licensed counselor, and he was a worker on a construction crew. Now, he was an incredibly good guy, and he loved his wife, and he wanted this strong, vibrant marriage. But when it came to giving her the emotional connection she needed and wanted, it was like she was digging with a backhoe, and he was digging with a spoon, maybe even a spork, right? It wasn't for lack of desire. It wasn't a lack of effort on his part. He just didn't have the tools. So here's what you have to understand. Emotional unavailability is usually not about a lack of love. It's about a lack of tools or a lack of awareness. And often it's a lack of emotional safety. You can't express what you were never taught to understand. And for a lot of men, no one ever showed them how to identify what they're feeling inside, let alone communicate it in a healthy way. So maybe in his home growing up, emotions weren't talked about, or maybe vulnerability wasn't modeled. Maybe the message, spoken or unspoken, was just be strong, don't be emotional, push it down, right? So now as a husband, when emotions rise in conversation, he doesn't lean in, he freezes, he shuts down, or he shifts to problem-solving mode because that's the only framework he has. And if he never learned it, then he can't lead with it. But here's where it gets important. It's not just about him. It's about the pattern that the two of you are in. Because what typically happens is this. One spouse, usually the wife, feels disconnected and starts reaching for more connection. She asks more questions and then brings up things more often, tries to get him to open up. And the more she pursues, the more he feels pressured. and the more he starts to feel like he's failing, like he doesn't know how to give her what she's asking for. And instead of stepping towards her, he steps back and he withdraws and he shuts down. Now she feels rejected. So she pursues and presses even harder, and he withdraws even more. And before long, you're stuck in this cycle where both of you are hurting and both of you feel justified. But here's the truth. You're not the problem. You're just stuck in this pattern. And what you have to see is that this shutdown, it's not often rejection. It's really like self-preservation, or it's protection. And maybe he's protecting himself from feeling like he's failing. He may be afraid of saying the wrong thing and making it worse. He may feel overwhelmed and not even know how to process what's going on inside of him. So silence sometimes becomes the safest option. His silence may not mean he doesn't care. It may mean he doesn't feel capable. Now, which brings us to what actually needs to change in your relationship. Because you can't force someone to open up. But you can create an environment that makes it more likely that they'll open up. So emotional safety, that's the bridge to emotional connection. A husband will only open up to the level he feels safe. And those aren't words he's thinking or even probably knows to say, but that's most of the time what's happening. Sometimes husbands, we don't feel safe to not have the perfect words. We don't feel safe to not get it right the first time. Safe to not be corrected or escalated immediately. And this isn't about blaming wives. It's really about empowering you. You have more influence here than you think you do. So what does this look like practically? Okay, so first, you have to lower the pressure. Don't expect immediate depth in every conversation. Give him the space to process. Honestly, give him the space to be a guy, right? Pressure shuts him down, but space can help him open up. Second, change the way you ask questions. Instead of asking, why don't you ever talk to me? Try something like, hey, what was the hardest part of your day today? Or what's been weighing on you lately? Those questions might be easier to step into. And then third, affirm him before you go deeper. When he does share, even a little bit, acknowledge it. Like, man, that means a lot. I really appreciate you telling me that. Something like that. Because safety grows when he feels like he can get it right, right? And I want to speak to both of you for a second, husbands and wives. Husbands, you can learn this. Emotional connection, it's not really a personality trait. It's a skill. And guys, we can obtain skills. Learning how to open up and how to stay present and how to connect with your wife, that's part of loving her well. And man, Scripture speaks to that. Husband, love your wives. And wives, you can influence this more than you think, but you can't force it. You can only foster it. So emotional connection isn't something you either have or you don't have. It's truly something you build. And here's what I want you to understand. If you don't address this, if you stay stuck in this cycle where one of you is reaching and the other is shutting down, over time, something subtle but really dangerous starts to happen. You just stop being emotionally connected and you start living more like roommates. You're still committed, you still love each other, you're still doing life together, but that deep connection you both actually want starts to fade. And a lot of couples don't even realize it, that it's even happening until they feel miles and miles apart. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, dude, that's us, that's exactly where we are, then you might need to watch this next video. Because in this video, we're going to help you understand why couples start to feel like roommates. And more importantly, how to actually start reconnecting again. So don't ignore this, because emotional distance doesn't stay the same. It either grows or it gets healed. So watch this video right now.